Good day sa ating lahat. So before we start our class, let's pray. So God, thank you po sa araw na ito, Panginoon. Kay po sana, Lord, ang magkaloob po sa amin, Lord, ng katalinuhan, Panginoon, na maaral po namin ng mabuti ang aming i-discuss, Panginoon. Tulungan niyo po kami na masabi po ito sa aming mga classmate ng maliwanag, Panginoon. Tulungan niyo po kami. Give us, Lord, the wisdom and knowledge, Panginoon. And also, Lord, patawarin niyo po kami sa aming mga kasalanan, sa isip, salita, sa gawa, Panginoon. Tulungan niyo po kami sa pangalan ng Panginoon na aming tagapagligtas.
So, good day po. Just like na po na-review natin, we discussed the 5 guiding principles in teaching Araling Panlipunan, which is the MABIC, meaningful, active, value-based, integrative, and challenging. So, today's lesson is about the methods and techniques in teaching Araling Panlipunan. Here are the reporters or teachers for today's lesson. We have Teacher Jovelyn, Teacher Kenneth, Teacher Mariel, Teacher Kyla, Teacher Marian, Teacher Jessica, and yours truly, Teacher Claire. For the keywords, may I call Teacher Jovelyn.
Thank you, Teacher Ajame. Here's the keywords of the lesson. First is constructivist approach, collaborative learning, experiential and contextualized learning, thematic method, conceptual approach, and lastly, integrative approach. To the next slide, may I call Miss Teacher Kenneth.
Thank you, Teacher Jovelyn. So for the focus questions, number 1, what are the different approaches in teaching Araling Panlipunan? Number 2, what are the methods and techniques for meaningful, active, value-based, integrative, and challenging Araling Panlipunan teaching? And number 3, how do these approaches, methods, and techniques benefit the teacher and students? So for the next slide, may I call Teacher Mariel?
Thank you, Teacher Kenneth. For analysis, direction, from the given set of words below, identify the word of suggest. So, constructivist approach. Second, collaborative learning. Slide po. And second, service learning. Multiple intelligence. Try question. Moral dilemma. Lesson indigent station. Next slide po.
Thank you, Teacher Mariel. So, approaches in teaching social study. The K-12 curriculum guide describe the teaching approach, and the teaching of Araling Panlipunan as based on constructivism, collaborative learning, experiential learning, thematic approach, conceptual approach, survey, integrative, interdisciplinary, and multidisciplinary. Next slide, please. So for the first approach, we have constructivist approach. This approach is based on the assumption that the students come to class with entry knowledge and skills. New lesson becomes meaningful when a connection is established between their prior knowledge and the new learning activity. So yung constructivist approach is based nga ito sa assumption na yung students they come to a class na meron nun silang empty knowledge. So they are not empty mind anymore. So meron na silang prior knowledge from the previous lesson na na-encounter nila. So yung new lesson mas nagiging meaningful siya when a connection is established between their prior knowledge and new learning. Dahil yung students, nakakapag-reflect sila sa new knowledge na na-acquire nila, and then they will be able to construct new meanings and understanding. So, for the example is sa isang art class. So, yung teacher, magbibigay siya ng activities sa mga pupils na mag-painting. So, yung prior knowledge nila is alam na nila yung iba't ibang uri ng kulay. So that magagamit nila yon dahil alam na nila kung ano yung tamang kulay at maganda at angkop sa painting nila. So makakapag-produce sila ng magandang outcome. So next slide please. Next is collaborative approach. This is based on the assumption that students learn better when they learn with others. Based on the principle of synergy, what a whole group of students can do is more than the sum of what each student can do separately. So sa collaborative learning naman, we are all familiar in this dahil marami na tayong nagawang collaborative tasks. So, sinasabi nga dito na this is based on the assumption that the students learn better when they learn with others. And also, sinasabi din na a whole group of students can do more compared kapag separate ito ginagawa. So, for example, ng collaborative approaches, kapag yung mga group reports na ginagawa natin. So, dahil nga grouping dito, maraming mga ideas and may mga sharing of ideas and hindi lang ikaw yung gagawa kasi nga meron kang mga kasama. And also, one of the example is yung role play and musical play, katulad ng ginawa namin, yung senior high kami, is dahil nga marami kami, maraming mga ideas, and dahil doon nakakapag produce kami ng magandang script at nakakagawa kami ng mga magagandang props. And hindi lang yun, nade-develop po yung closeness ng mga magkakaklase, and dahil doon nagkakaroon ng unity at mas natututo kami. Approach is some of the members ng group is nagiging dependent na lang sila sa mga kagrupo nila. So, ang nangyayari, di ba, parang nagiging useless lang yung collaborative. Kasi hindi na nga sila natututo, hindi pa sila nakakatulong. Pero, overall, yung collaborative is effective talaga siya. Dahil nga dito, may nangyayaring brainstorming and sharing of ideas. Dahil doon, nakakapag-produce sila ng mas magandang outcome. So, for the next slide, may I call Teacher Mariel.
Okay, thank you, Teacher Kenneth. Experiential and contextualized learning. Contextualized learning because learning is rooted in human experience, meaning the context of learning and experience itself. Araling Panlipunan, a subject developed the following across the grade. Refers the education process of relating the curriculum to a particular setting, situation, or area of application to make the competencies relevant, meaningful, and useful to the learners. Example, related ang kahulugan ng economics sa pang-araw-araw na yung curriculum o yung concept ay nalilink mo yung karanasan na alam mo at alam niya. And ito nga po yung by grade, Dito po tinuturo ang Araling Panlipunan by step. Grade 1, tao, kapaligiran at lipunan. For grade 2, panahon, pagtutuloy o pagbabago. Grade 3, kultura, pananagutan, pagkapamayan at grade 5, kapangyarihan, otoridad, pamamahala. And grade 7, ugnayan, pangrehiyon at pangmundo. Next slide po. Experiential and contextualized learning. Experiential learning, inductive learning centered and activity-oriented personalized reflection about experience and the formulation of plans to apply learning. The other learning. The emphasis learning and process of learning that product experiential learning can be viewed as cycle consisting of 5 phases all the necessary. Ito po yung tungkol sa isang karanasan at mga plano kung paano may bibigay ang tamang lesson at kung ito ba ay effective sa mga student, katulad na lamang ang critical thinking. Nagagamit ito sa student para sa balik-aral kung may natututunan ba ito. Example po, nung high school po ako, lagi nagtatanong yung mga teacher namin sa mga nakarang itinuro niya, doon po pumapasok ang mga experiential learning. Ito po, experience, doon po tayo magbibigay ng mga nangyari po sa atin, mga naganap, doon po may papasok yung experience. Sharing and publishing, dito po tayo magbibigay ng mga reaction or observation. For analyzing or processing, patterns dynamic determine. Inference and generalization, principles are derived. Applying, plans are made to use learning is new situation. Thank you po.
So thank you, Teacher Mariel. So now let's proceed with the thematic method. Learning revolves around a theme. So sinasabi dito na learning revolves around the theme. So may temang sinusunod and nagfo-focus ito sa particular topic or main point or pinaka-theme nung sinasabi or yung gagawin nating pagtuturo. So the K-12 curriculum guide for Araling Panlipunan enumerates the following themes across the grades. So for grades 1, the themes included ay tao, kapaligiran, at lipunan. So for grades 2, panahon, pagtutuloy at pagbabago. For grades 3, kultura, pananagutan at pagkabansa. For grades 4, karapatan, pananagutan at pagkamamamayan. Grade 5, kapangyarihan, otoridad at pamamahala. Grade 6, produksyon, distribution at pagkonsumo. And for grade 7, ugnayang pangrehiyon at pangmundo. So dito sinasabi na each theme should be accompanied by focus questions. So ano nga ba yung mga focus questions na pwede nating itanong sa mga students para mabigyan or mapalawak yung theme na meron tayo? For example, dun sa grades 1, so tao. Tao yung tema natin. So pwede nating itanong, ano ba yung characteristics ng tao? Ano ba yung katangian na makikita mo sa isang tao? Paano mo ilalarawan ang isang tao? Same with kapaligiran. Ano yung kapaligiran? Ano yung lipunan? At sino-sino yung mga nasa kapaligiran at lipunan mo. Same with other teams, yung mga panahon from grades 2 to 7. So same lang din ang process yan. So kung saan yung focus questions magde-determine or magpapaintindi sa mga students kung ano ba talaga yung pinaka pag-aaralan or pinakasakop ng temang yon. So mapapansin natin parang from simple to complex yung mga tema. So as nagiging upgraded or mas tumataas yung grade level ng isang estudyante, mas nagiging complex na yung pinag-aaralan nila. So dati nagkaroon kami in our subject community engagement kung saan yung team namin is mag-drawing kami about sa community namin. So after naming mag-drawing about yung yung community namin nagkaroon ng focus questions, which are yung ano ba masasabi mo na community? Paano mo masasabi na community yung dinrowing mo? Ano yung mga sumasakop sa community, and paano mo masasabi na bilang ka or included ka dun sa community na sinasabi mo? So parang sinasabi dito na magsisimula tayo sa isang theme, then after that, kapag nagkaroon na tayo ng focus questions, mas malalim nating maiintindihan kung ano ba yung itinuturo sa atin ng ating mga teachers. So that is for the thematic method. So next slide, please. So now let's proceed with the conceptual approach. So sinasabi dito na it involves the process of concept formation. So concepts are mental constructions representing categories of information that contains defining attributes. So sinasabi dito na ito ay buo ng iba't ibang mga konsepto. Ito rin ay set of ideas and beliefs na meron tayo na once na pinagsama-sama ay pwedeng makagain tayo. It is a structural inquiry process where students figure out the attributes of a group or category that has already been formed by the teacher. So, conceptual approach is an inquiry process kung saan gumagana yung critical thinking skills ng mga students just to figure out kung ano ba yung gustong i-point out ng teacher. It stresses the cognitive learning of the content and the acquisition of the knowledge. So the concept attainment process may proceed deductively or inductively. So, yung pagdedetermine or yung possible ways ng pagkakaalam natin sa concept ay pwedeng inductively or deductively. So, pag sinabi natin inductive, from specific to general. So, magbibigay muna tayo ng example to definition. Kapag sinabi naman natin deductive, it is from general to specific. So, ide-define muna natin yung idea before tayo mag-give ng example. So, example ng deductive, so yung idea sa economics kung saan yung idea ng concept ng surplus and shortage, kung saan pag sinabi natin shortage, quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supply. Pag sinabi naman natin surplus, quantity supply is greater than the quantity demanded. So, for example, tatlo yung binibili kong stick pero yung available lang sa tindahan ay 2. So meaning to say, nagkaroon na ng shortage kasi mas madami yung hinihingi ko or yung kailangan ko kesa sa supply. Pag sinabi naman nating surplus, 5 yung binibili ko na stick pero ang meron sa tindahan is 7. So, meaning to say, may paglabis dun sa part niya. So, dun sa deductive approach, dinefine muna natin kung ano ba yung shortage or surplus bago tayo magbigay ng example para mas malinaw sa mga estudyante kung ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng shortage and surplus. So, sa example naman po ng inductive is yung sa math, kung saan pinaggagawa or pinag-drawing tayo ng mga teachers natin ng triangle. So, yung triangle ay may 3 sides. Then, i-measure natin yung 3 angles niya. So, once na na-measure natin yung 3 angles niya, so that ng triangle ay 180 degrees. So sinasabi din dito na yung conceptual approach is higher than content sa pinaka-content. So for the next.
So thank you, Teacher Kyla. Integrative approach. So meaning, nag-integrate tayo para magkaroon tayo ng meaningful learning, kung saan kinoconnect natin yung ibang discipline sa lesson. Sabi nga sa discussion natin last time, malawak yung integrative approach. It can be interdisciplinary kung saan kinoconnect natin yung other discipline or subject sa ating lesson. For example na nga po dito yung history, pag-aaralan natin yung prehistoric era, kung saan nagpapalipat-lipat yung mga sinaunang tao. Pwede mo ngayon siya i-connect sa human geography because ano ba yung mga dahilan ng migration ng tao. And then it can also be interdisciplinary. Within the same subject, ipina-connect mo yung ibang lesson or topic sa lesson mo. For example, in economics, ang topic is inflation. Sa pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, pwede mo siya i-connect sa law of demand and supply na ituro ko na. Kaya din tayo nagkakaroon ng review before the lesson kasi pwede mo yun ma-connect sa iyong new lesson para magkaroon ng meaningful, integrative, value-based, active, and challenging teaching. Another is multidisciplinary, sabi nga dyan, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary are also integrative approach. Pag naman multidisciplinary, na-integrate yung iba't ibang approach. For example, yung na-discuss kaninang collaborative approach at saka yung service learning. So, pwede mo siya integrate sa lesson. Example, pag gagawin mo sila ng project sa community, pwede silang pumili ng isang problema sa barangay, ano yung maaari nilang gawin or project na mai-propose. So, doon makikita mo may collaborative learning and meron ding service learning. And then another part ng interdisciplinary approach is transdisciplinary approach. Kasi dito naman, kinoconnect mo yung lesson sa real life experience. Just like sa example sa economics, yung katangian ng wise na mamimili is yung pagiging observer or mapanuri. So, hindi mo lang siya basta i-discuss kung ano yung meaning ng mapanuri, pero i-relate mo din siya sa real-life experience na pwede ka magtanong sa students about sa experience nila na kapag sumasama sila sa nanay nila, ano yung napapansin nila kung paano mamili yung nanay nila. Like, kapag namimili ng isda, di ba tinitingnan kung bago or fresh pa ba yung isda, kung mapula yung mata. So, doon nakikita mo na na-i-connect yung real-life experience sa lesson. So, marami pang other way ng integration na pwede mong gawin. By integrative approach, mas naintindihan ng bata at mas nakakapag-promote yun ng lifelong learning. For meaningful, value-based, integrative, and challenging Araling Panlipunan, the following specific method and techniques are suggested. So, una na dito yung try question. So this enables the students to probe into events. When we say probe into events, we thoroughly explore an event. Mas sinisiyasat natin yung nangyari sa pamamagitan ng pagtatanong. Mas nakahalukay natin yung facts, yung learning. Pag nagtatanong, mas nakakapag-promote yun ng critical thinking sa student. From the word itself, try question, 3 questions are asked. What happened? Why did it happen? What are the possible consequences? For example, yung nangyari ngayon na gera sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine, for you to better understand, hindi mo lang siya basta ituturo kung ano yung nangyari, kundi kung bakit din yung nangyari, ano yung mga possible consequences nito. So ngayon, ramdaman naman natin na kahit hindi tayo kasama sa gera, is apektado tayo. Through try question, mas nadidig natin yung mga information, mas nahihima yung mga pangyayari. For the next slide po, it will be discussed by Teacher Marian.
Thank you po, Teacher Mary Claire. So, for the second method and technique in teaching Araling Panlipunan, we have moral dilemma method. In a moral dilemma, a person is torn between 2 actions. So, it is a situation na meron kang dalawang options na maaari mong gawin. Pero, kailangan mong pumili ng isa lang dito sa dalawang options na to kasi isa lang yung pwede mong gawin. At whatever options you will choose, either the option 1 or the option 2, you will violate at least one important moral concern regardless kung ano man sa dalawang options na to yung pinili mong gawin. So, example na rito is yung kay Haynes. I remember, meron kaming isang subject na nag-take kami ng exam doon. And then,
isa tong Haynes dilemma yung naalala kong naging tanong dun sa tinik naming exam. So the situation is, si Haynes meron siyang asawa na merong particular type of cancer. And then, sabi sa kanya ng doktor na maaaring maligtas yung asawa niya sa tulong ng isang gamot. So, gustong bumili ni Haynes ng gamot na yon, yung tinutukoy ng doktor. Pero, the problem is, sobrang mahal ng halaga ng gamot na yon. Kasi mahal din yung mga kinakailangan para ma-produce yung gamot. Now, si Haynes, hindi niya afford yun. So, ginawa niya bumalik siya at naghanap ng pera. Nanghiram siya sa mga kaibigan at kapamilya niya. Ang kaso, hindi pa rin naman yun sapat para mabili yung gamot na kinakailangan niya. Kaya ang ginawa ni Haynes, nakiusap siya doon sa nagbebenta na kung pwede, mura lang na ibenta sa kanya. Pero unfortunately, hindi pumayag yung nagbebenta. So dahil nga desperado na si Haynes na ma-save yung asawa niya, later that night, nilooban niya yung store ng nagbebenta at ninakaw niya yung gamot na yon para sa asawa niya. Now, the question is, tama lang ba yung ginawa ni Haynes na ninakaw niya yung gamot para sa asawa niya na may sakit? So, kung i-analyze nating mabuti yung situation ni Haynes, ninakaw niya yung gamot na yon kasi para naman sa kapakanan ng asawa niya. Ang kaso, sa maling paraan niya lang ginawa. On the other hand naman, kung hindi niya naman ninakaw yung gamot na yon, na napagkamahal-mahal, magiging alanganin naman yung buhay ng asawa niya. So, ito yung example ng moral dilemma. At tulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, either si option 1 or si option 2, you will violate at least one important moral concern regardless kung ano man sa dalawang options na to yung pinili mong gawin. Now, in using the moral dilemma method in teaching Araling Panlipunan, it has a great advantage. Paano ko nasabi? Kasi through analyzing the situations or dilemma, mabibuild yung reasoning at pagiging critical thinker ng mga estudyante. Like, may isip nila, ano ba dapat yung desisyon na ginawa ni Haynes? Tama lang ba na nagnakaw siya para sa kapakanan ng asawa niya? Enough ba yon na reason para gumawa siya ng maling gawain? No. Again, with the help of moral dilemma method, mapapaisip talaga yung mga estudyante kung ano ba yung dapat na gawin or yung parang mas better na gawin. Kumbaga, iikot at gagana talaga yung mga utak nila. So, to discuss the next method and technique, may I call Teacher Jessica.
Thank you, Teacher Marian. So for the next slide, let's continue the methods and technique in teaching Araling Panlipunan. Using varied learning activities to cater to students, multiple intelligence and learning styles. So dito, sinasabi yung sa pamamagitan ng activity or learning activity, malalaman ng mga bata kung saan ba sila magaling at hindi lang dun sa intelligence nila or kung saan sila magaling, dun mapopokus yung gusto nilang gawin, like yung activities. So, pwede din nalang malaman yung mga bagay na hindi nila alam na kaya pala nilang gawin. So by this activity, malalaman or magkakaroon ng engagement yung mga student na magkaroon ng meaningful content yung mga gagawin nila. And also to enhance the critical thinking and develop their skills. So first, intelligence of the student. Meron tayong verbal linguistic. When we say verbal linguistic, it is the people with the linguistic verbal intelligence na kaya nilang makaalala ng mga sinusulat nila, spoken informations, enjoy reading and writing. Gusto rin nila yung mga debates and give persuasive speech, yung mga speechless, or they can able to explain things well, use humor, then telling stories. It means having complete knowledge of language from words to phrases and sentences. So people who have a big, strong sense of verbal intelligence make excellent oratories. Ito yung mga leaders, teachers, author, and lawyer. So, because they have a good speaking and they need, kailangan nila ng, maging maka-encourage sila sa mga student nila. So, ito yung verbal linguistic na pwede nilang gawin sa ating mga student or yung mga teachers na pwede nating ibigay sa ating mga student. So, ito yung mga activities, discussions, debate, journal writing, conference, essay stories, poem, storytelling, listening, activities, and reading. So, yun, itong mga example na binigay ko sa inyo na pwede nating gawin sa ating mga estudyante dun sa mga magagaling sa verbal linguistic is ito, makakatulong ito kung paano nila madedevelop yung skills nila. Next is meron tayong logical mathematical or tinatawag nating logic smart. When we say logical mathematical intelligence, it is the ability to think, conceptual and constructive capacity to discern logic or numerical pattern skills, problem solving, logical and math, performing experience careers. Ito yung mga scientists, engineers, accountant, mathematician. So characteristic of a have a logical mathematical intelligence is the excellent problem solving skills. So meron silang skills how to solve the problems. Next is nag-i-enjoy sila sa mga abstract na idea. Like conducting scientific experiment, and they are also good at solving complex computation. So dito naman sa logical mathematical, pwede nating ibigay sa mga student natin, doon sa mga magagaling sa math. Pwede nating ibigay na activity sa kanila is yung calculations, experiments, comparisons, number games, using evidences, formulating, testing hypothesis, deductive and inductive reasoning. So dito, sa mga teachers natin or tayo magiging teacher, ito yung pwede nating ibigay sa kanila kung magaling yung mga bata sa numbers. Next is a spatial or picture smart. So spatial intelligence or visual spatial ability has been defined, the ability to generate or retain, retrieve, and conform well-structured visual image. So sabi nga ni Loma 1996, it's what we do when we visualize shapes in our mind eyes. It's the mental feat that architects and engineers perform when they design buildings. So ito naman yung makakatulong sa ating mga student or sa ating mga teacher na pwede natin ibigay sa ating mga student na activities is the concept map, graphs, charts, art project, metaphoric thinking visualizations, video slides, visual presentation. So yun, makakatulong yun sa mga student with have a intellectual with the picture smart. Next is bodily kinesthetic or tinatawag natin siyang body smart. So when we say bodily kinesthetic, it is the ability to manipulate objects and use variety of physical skills. So this intelligence also involves a sense of timing and perfections of skills through mind-body union. So ito yung mga athletic, dancers, surgeons, and craftspeople exhibited well-developed bodily kinesthetic intelligence. So the characteristic of bodily kinesthetic are skilled at dancing, sports, enjoying creating things with his or her hands, have excellent physical coordinations, remember by doing rather than hearing or seeing. So dito naman sa bodily kinesthetic, ito naman yung mga bata na they are good in with the physical coordinations or yung body movement kesa dun sa nakikinig sila at sa mga nakikita nila. So dito, yung pwede nating ibigay sa mga estudyante natin na activities, ito yung role play, dance, athletic activities, manipulative hands-on, demonstration, and concept miming. So yun yung makakatulong sa atin, sa mga student natin para mas ma-develop yung intelligence nila when it comes in bodily kinesthetic. Next is si musical or tinatawag natin siyang, next slide po pala po. Next po is musical or music smart. So when we say musical smart, it is an example of intelligence which Garner defined as an ability to reduce and appreciate rhythm, pitch, and timbre, or appreciate of a forms of musical expressiveness. So for example, people with a musical intelligence are able to hear and organize patterns easily. They are very sensitive to rhythm and sounds. And also, for example, they can easily distinguish the sounds of the clarinet from the sounds of the flute. So people with the musical intelligence think in terms of patterns. So what is the importance of having a musical intelligence? It touches us on an emotional level of influences our mood. So ito, nakakatulong siya nai-influence na yung ating mood. So people with a strong musical intelligence easily learn to play an instrument. Dahil nga they are good in music, kahit meron akong kakilala or sa church namin, napakahusay niya pagdating sa music. Kahit na alam mo yung naririnig niya lang yung beat lang ba, kaya niya nang i-play siya sa piano without the notes, yung binabasa yung notes. So doon, they also have a strong term memory and can play whole compositions without reading a source. So yun. Pwede natin ding ibigay sa kanila na activity sa mga bata is yung playing music, yung singing, rapping, twisting, clapping, analyzing sounds and music. So next slide. Next is the interpersonal. So when we say interpersonal, it is the ability to understand and interact effectively with others. It involves effective verbal and non-verbal communication. And also it have ability to note distinctions among other sensitivity to the moods and the temperatures of other, and the ability to entertain, multi-perspective, and also it repairs to a person's ability to interact with the understanding other people social situations. So for example, the most famous one include Mahatma Gandhi, and Anna Sullivan. So one of the Heaven Keller's teachers, knowing well their affinity for helping others. It quite clear that this type of intelligence is directly related to being compassionate and empathetic. So when we say compassionate, it is the feeling or showing sympathy and concern with others. So parang ito yung nilalagay mo yung sarili mo dun sa sitwasyon nila. So empathetic naman, it is the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. So dito naman, yung pwede nating ibigay sa kanila ng mga activities, community involvement, project, discussions, cooperative learning, team games, peer tutoring, conference, social activities, and sharing. So dito rin, sabi nga ni Sir kaninang umaga na yung interpersonal, pwede din dito yung drawing kasi yun nga, naaano natin yung nasasabi natin dito yung gusto nating sabihin, which yung sa pamamagitan ng drawing. Next is the naturalist or nature smart. So when we say naturalist, it is the focus on how people related to their nature surroundings. Naturalists have a special ability to grow plants, vegetables, and fruits. They have an affinity for animals, and they are good at training and understanding them. So naturalists can easily distinguish pattern in a nature. So for example, people with a naturalistic intelligence are interested in subjects such as botany, biology, and sociology. So they are enjoying camping, gardening, hiking, and exploring the outdoors activities. So ito naman yung pwede natin pong ibigay sa kanila. So dito pala po sa naturalist is ito naman po yung mga bata or yung mga student that they have a ability kung paano yung dahil nga ngayon 'di ba sa pandemic nagkaroon tayo ng yung mga plantita sa mga nanay natin. So napakagaling nilang magpalago ng mga halaman. So isa 'yon. Pwede nating ibigay sa mga bata na activity is ecological field trip, environmental study, caring for plants, and animal outdoors walk patterns and recognition. So, and the last is extensionalist or self-smart. So dito naman po, when we say extensionalist, it is the deep sensitive and people's ability to handle deep questions such as the meaning of existence. They are sensitive and capacity to tackle deep questions about human existence, such as the meaning of life, why we do die, and how did we get here. So dito naman, ito naman yung mga bata na sobrang matanong. So parang ako, gusto ko talaga yung malaman yung mga bagay-bagay na nangyayari, saan ba tagaling, bakit tayong may ganto, saan ba to nagsimula. So yun, dun yung mga ganong bata is sobrang gusto nilang malaman lahat ng mga bagay na parang imposible. Pero yun nga, sobrang napaka dami nilang gustong malaman. Pwede natin ibigay yung reflection, yung ginagawa rin natin every time na mag-end yung klase natin. So ano ba yung natutunan nila dun sa bagay na yon? Ano na nila? Pwede rin yung diary. Dahil nga, yun nga, pwede nilang ilagay dun yung mga bagay na gusto nilang itanong at kung ano yung gusto nilang malaman sa isang bagay. And also yung sa journal entry. So, ito pong method and techniques in teaching Araling Panlipunan, ito po yung dapat, yun nga po, sinabi ko po kanina, engagement natin to sa mga student natin na magkaroon po tayo ng meaningful na content para po sa kanila, para po ma-develop po yung skills po nila. So for the next slide, may I call Teacher Bokbok.
Its methods and techniques in teaching Araling Panlipunan number 5. The conduct of survey or interview to gather data, recording, organizing, analyzing, and interpreting data to answer given problems is hands-on, minds-on, hearts-on activity. Interviewing the elders in the community regarding history of the town and official of the town. The teaching and learning Araling Panlipon is active if it engages students in the learning process. So the data gathering and recording, organizing, analyzing, and interpreting data to answer the common ways researchers to to give research. There are three primary sources and methods of data, such as observations, interviews, and questionnaires, but there are more methods also available for data collections. Different methods have different strengths and weaknesses depending on the purpose of the study. Data gathering is not just about seeking information, about also being involved and trying to participate with the person. Being interviewed on what they are having or doing, the researcher must have also be active, both physically and mentally active, when it comes to when it comes to learning to be able to observe the knowledge being imparted. Everything should be put into the heart to be able to relate and and not set boundaries. For example is interviewing a community with not enough sources of income, resulting food hunger or even worse and malnutrition. Interviewing the people like them will make a researcher be hands-on and involved in the given situation. Additionally, being minds-on and hearts-on to be physically, mentally, and emotionally involved in one topic. Engaging with people will benefit the study because their experience will teach and everyone who is studying the same matters. Next slide. For the number 6 is service learning that involves community projects that occur during class time falls under the category of multidisciplinary integration. So dito naman po is pag sinabi nating service learning is ito ay ini-integrate natin yung community in teaching Araling Panlipunan. It will promote civic competence to our students. Sinasabi diyan na ang service learning is part of multidisciplinary integration kasi gumamit tayo ng experiential learning. Katulad nga po nung example ni Sir last meeting na kape. Hindi ka lang dapat ang iinom ng kape ng local coffee natin, pero gagawa ka ng way para i-promote siya sa iba. And then, other example is yung ginagawa po natin sa nating pagtatanim sa school nung mga elementary days, high school days, yung sa mga TLE subject na tinuturuan tayo kung paano magtanim, kung paano pangalagaan yung mga kalikasan. Tapos bago nila ipinapagawa sa atin yun is nagtatakal muna sila regarding dun sa dapat na gagawin natin, which is dinidiscuss na nila at tinuturuan muna tayo kung paano ang gagawin. Kaya bago mag-start ang pag-garden or pagre-recycle ng iba't ibang bagay na pwede pang magamit, is alam na natin kung paano ang gagawin natin. Bukod sa pagdi-discuss na may natututunan na tayo, mas na-develop din yung skills natin at yung sarili natin kung paano ang gagawin kasi nagagawa natin yun ng sarili natin. Base na rin sa pagtuturo ng ating teacher. So isa din pong example doon ay sa deforestation and reforestation ang topic. Hindi mo lang siya i-discuss yung meaning niya. Hindi mo lang siya i-discuss yung meaning niya or yung dapat gawin. Mas natututo ang bata kung gagawin nila para makatulong sa ating environment tulad ng pakikipag-ugnayan sa barangay, like yung pagtutulong po, yung pagtutulong nila sa mga pag-garden na which is ginagawa naman sa barangay natin every weekends ata. Sa amin kasi every weekends yun ginagawa na pagga-garden and then pagtatanim na bawat halaman. So doon pa lang nadidevelop yung kaalaman at kakayahan ng isang tao na matuto at malaman kung ano yung dapat nilang gawin sa mga bagay-bagay na katulad ng mga pagre-recycle and pagtatanim ng mga halaman na nakakatulong din sa ating environment. And then for the next slide,
Another method and technique in teaching Araling Panlipunan, we have lesson indigenization. Another way of making Araling Panlipunan teaching integrative and meaningful to students when we indigenizing and localizing the lesson. So when we say indigenization, concepts are explained using thought patterns, materials of indigenous communities. So in applying this method and technique, we can use indigenous knowledge in teaching the topic. When we say indigenous knowledge or katutubong kaalaman, it refers to the knowledge and skills that an indigenous community acquires over generations of living in a particular environment. So, for example, ang topic is about language and culture. Now, pwede kang gumamit ng mga local songs, poems, and stories to discuss your topic. Also, using indigenous aids such as artifacts. So, I remember nung grade 7 ako, diniscuss namin yung about sa manunggul jar. So, isa tong burial jar na na-discover sa Palawan. So, naalala ko yung teacher ko sa AP noon, meron siyang dinala na replica ng manunggul jar. Tapos ginawa niya, pinaikot niya yun sa buong classroom namin para mahawakan at matignan namin isa-isa. So, habang dinidiscuss ng teacher ko sa AP yung mga features ng manunggul jar, and saan yung mga yun sumisimbolo, like for example, yung nasa pinakaibabaw niya, kung makikita nyo, meron dong bangka, tapos may dalawang taong nakasakay, yung isa may hawak na sagwan, tapos yung isa naman wala. So, that symbolize na yung soul ng namatay is nagta-travel na siya sa kabilang buhay. So, yun nga, habang na-explain yun ni ma'am sa amin, naiintindihan at nakakasunod kaming lahat sa mga sinasabi niya. Since nakita talaga namin actual yung itsura ng manunggul jar, kahit na replica lang siya. Also, field trip are considered as indigenization. So, nung first time kong sumama sa field trip, nung high school, I think grade 9 ata ako noon. Isa sa mga destination namin is yung bahay o ancestral home ni Emilio Aguinaldo sa Kawit, Cavite. So doon, habang tinutour kami sa loob ng bahay niya, nakikita namin yung mga personal memorabilia and other historical artifacts na naandoon. Tapos, ini-explain din sa amin yun ng parang tour guide ata. Now, in using this method and technique in teaching Araling Panlipunan, talagang matututo yung estudyante. Lagi nga natin sinasabi na most learners are virtual learners. So, kung dinidiscuss lang natin siya orally or verbally without concrete example, medyo mahihirapang makasunod dinidiscuss natin yung mga estudyante. Aside from that, nagiging fun and engaging. Also, exciting na rin yung teaching kapag ganito natin ini-execute yung pagtuturo natin. So, to summarize our topic, may I call Teacher Kyla.
So thank you so much. So for our summary, so to sum it up, the methods and techniques in teaching Araling Panlipunan, such as the constructivist approach, collaborative learning, experiential and contextualized learning, thematic method, conceptual approach, and integrative approach is nakakatulong to fully understand ng mga students ang lesson. Aside from it, it will let the students to be involved and engaged in the learning process na hindi na lang sila tagapakinig, kundi tagagawa na rin sila or taga-apply na rin sila ng mga natutunan nila in the class. So, it also helps the teacher na makater yung multiple intelligences ng mga students and different learning styles and learning abilities ng mga students by the use of these methods and techniques in teaching Araling Panlipunan. So for the reflection, may I call on Teacher Marian?
Thank you, Teacher Kyla. For the reflection, as future teacher, what specific approach, method, or technique is best for you that you will apply in teaching Araling Panlipunan? So, that ends our topic. Thank you everyone for listening.